Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Success Innovation. Thank you for joining us today. Today, I have the pleasure of having a great individual student, Diego Martinez. He is currently a UCSD student who studies aerospace engineering at UCSD. He has had the great fortune and opportunity of working as an intern with his dream company, Boeing. Currently, he is on his second internship with them. Welcome, Diego Martinez, to Success Innovation. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Lázaro. Thank you for having me.
For sure. Thank you for joining us. So, I did a little introduction about you, a little bio, but is there something that I might have missed that you want to share with us at this point?
No, nothing really. I think the introduction covered it all. Thank you.
All right, for sure. Right, so let's get started with a couple of questions. The core values are very important. You're a part of SHIP, and so am I. And SHIP has values and core values spelled out and clearly written out. But I want to know from you who you are and what two core values do you consider very important to you?
So, two core values that I consider really important to me are respect and integrity. And respect is really important to me because at the end of the day, that's when you're doing your job and when you're, at school, you want to be respected because with respect, you earn trust, and trust is something really valuable. And in my internship, trust is a really big part of the work statement. So to have that respect and to have trust is extremely important. And then with integrity, that also respect and integrity that also goes hand in hand, and both respect and integrity both build that trust. So that's why respect and integrity are my two core values.
Awesome. Now, respect and integrity, those are your two main core values. Now, corporations such as Boeing, they all stipulate some of those core values in their website. So, do those align with your respect and integrity core values?
Absolutely. Yes. And that's something that I look for in any company. And especially with Boeing, and they are doing there is a huge culture around respect and integrity, and the engineers that are there, and I really love that culture change, and it's one of the reasons why I love working at Boeing. I love the direction that the company is going in right now.
Awesome. Great, great. So, I introduced you and I said that you're going to UCSD. You're on your third year, from what I know. You're studying aerospace engineering. But I want to go back a little further and I want to know and ask you, how did you end up going to college? What propelled you? What motivated you? Was it your parents? Was it what somebody said? How did you end up going to college?
Yeah, so it was always instilled in me since the start of high school that I was going to college. And not just college, I was going to get some form of higher education. Didn't necessarily have to be a four-year university, could have been community college, trade school, didn't matter. I was going to get higher education. And so from right then and there, uh, I knew that I had to do well in school, be involved, and make myself a competitive student when I was applying for college. And I'm a second generation college student, and my parents, they worked, back when they were my age, and deciding what my grandparents told them was that we don't know how you're going to get into college, but we just know that you have to go. So we're going to do everything in our power, and you're going to do everything in your power to go get that higher education so you can be successful. That mentality was passed down to me and also to my younger brother as well. My younger brother, he's entering his junior year in high school. So that mentality, my parents are pushing him to also start thinking about college the way that they pushed me to think about college and be competitive. So no matter what, I was gonna go to college and get that college education.
Awesome. So that was instilled in you from a very early age. starting just around freshman year in high school, possibly a little sooner than that, right? So as you're going through freshman year in high school, you're a sophomore now. You obviously probably, I'm assuming you took the PSAT, the SAT, some of those standardized testing. But through your high school career, there must have been some difficult times. There must have been some turmoil, some turbulence, especially in your senior year when you're starting to apply to college. You're thinking, okay, we have what they call now the PIQs, was like the personal interview questions, and you're thinking, well, who am I and why do I deserve to be in this particular college? What have I done that makes me stand out? So, to that extent, how did you feel at that point when you're trying to answer those questions? And what do you think sets you apart to be able to get accepted, particularly at UCSD, which is a very competitive school, and only a fraction of the individuals that actually apply get selected to be admitted into it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to tell you the truth, I wish that all colleges did was that when you get accepted or rejected or waitlisted, I wish that, the admissions people, they tell you like, oh yeah, we like this about you and, or we didn't like this about you. And, and yeah, and I think that would be really helpful for all individuals. But for me, I think just when I was writing my PIQs, I knew to set myself apart, I had to become really personal with, that's why they're called personal insight questions. And, and I had to, and the reason I had to do this was because at the time when I was applying, I actually, because of the coronavirus pandemic, I didn't take the SAT or the ACT. All I had in terms of test scores were my AP test scores, which were pretty good. I had pretty good scores, but I knew that I had to m- define myself more than me just being a number, me just being a test score, standardized test score, or being more than just whatever my GPA is. And so in my PIQs, and in all of my essay questions, I wrote about personal stories that talked about me and that were personal to me and that weren't personal to anybody else that was applying. And so I think really being personal in these essay questions and showing who you are and showing what your core values are and talking about your struggles and how you have overcome them, that really is what set me apart in terms of everybody else. And I believe that is why I got accepted.
Great response. Yeah. So now let's fast forward a little bit. You get accepted, you get that acceptance email, right? And you're really happy and you're like, oh man, I made it. I'm at UCSD. I'm sure your mom, your dad were also proud of you. Really, really happy for you and excited about what is about to happen, right? And you're there smiling, all happy, thinking, okay, UCSD is a great campus. But you get to UCSD, right? As a high school student, and I know you're from the LA County area, you're coming down to San Diego, and all of a sudden you're in this big campus, obviously. I want you to remember, I'm assuming you lived in the dorms. So I want you to remember, go back to that time when obviously your mom, your dad, your brother, they drop you off, they unload your clothes, you move into the dorm, you get to meet your roommate or roommates, depending on how the rooming situation was scheduled. And all of a sudden they go, and you're there the first night. I don't know if you had some sort of summer program to get adjusted to the environment or not, but I want you to go back to that first day of that move in for that fall quarter. What was going through your mind? What were you feeling now that you're thinking, okay, my family is literally going away. I'm not going to see them every night. I'm not going to be able to speak to my dad, mom, sit around the table if that's what you did to eat dinner. What was going through your mind?
So yeah, the moment that my parents left, I I look back at all the stuff I had to unpack, and I just kind of began unpacking. But as I kept unpacking everything and putting everything into place, and the pile of stuff I had to unpack started doing dwindling and dwindling. That's when it hit me. I was like man, like this is my home. This is my home for the next. This is my home away from home for the next year or so. And I through the Rasa Resource Center at UCSD, I was allowed an early move-in date. So I moved in about 5 days before my other roommates came. So for a good time, I was alone in the room, and thankfully through the Rasa Resource Center, I made some friends. So wasn't completely alone, but again, it was a strange feeling because when you go back home, you know like you said, Lacero, you see your mom, your dad, your younger brother, you sit down around the table, have dinner, and that's custom, and that's a habit for 17 years. But then all of a sudden, when this new chapter in your life opens up, it's strange coming home and not seeing them. It's and yeah, it was a little sad, but in my heart, I'm pretty sure it was definitely more sad for my parents as well and my brother. But at the end of the day, I think the entire family knew that this was a new chapter for me, and that it was a great opportunity. And at the end of the day, they were proud of me for doing this, and they were going to support me in every way possible. So I always I always knew that my parents would be there, especially since I chose UCSD. I chose a school not that far away from home. I'm from Los Angeles, so yeah. So I did miss them, but I always knew that, if I ever wanted to go home, I had the privilege to do so.
Awesome. Yeah, you could drive up maybe 2.5 hours, depending on traffic, right? And get up and
Mhm.
see them on the weekend, on the weekend, and or holidays. So that's not too far away. But at the end of the day, like you mentioned, 17 years with your parents, with your family, being protected by them, and being with them most of the time, you are changing in that particular period of your life, right? So that's a different chapter for you and for them as well. You get to UCSD, obviously you had to make a decision, and you end up going there. All of a sudden, you are admitted to an aerospace engineering major. How did you, going back to high school, how did you determine I want to be an aerospace engineer? And what does that mean? And what has been the path so far?
Yeah, so in high school, so I've always loved airplanes ever since I was 5 years old. So that's where the love and the passion started. Just hearing the roar of the engines of especially the 747, Boeing 747. That was my favorite airplane. So hearing the roar of the engines, it was
It was
very,
more
very
commercial
transfixing.
aircraft for you, right? Commercial, not the
Yeah.
fighter jets, not the
No,
F-14, F-18, F-35s, not nothing. Okay.
no. And if I'm being honest, that's something that people are surprised when they're first getting to know me. When I tell them that I'm an aerospace engineer, they think, oh, you're gonna work for NASA. You're gonna send stuff to space. You're gonna work for SpaceX. And I tell them no. So they're like, oh, you're gonna go the military route because you like fighter jets. And I'm like, no. Like when I first think of aerospace, I think of commercial aviation. I think of airplanes. That's where my first love was. And so carrying that passion in high school, the summer transitioning from my sophomore year of high school to junior year, I did a program called ACE. ACE stands for the Aviation Careers Education Academy. Sorry, Aviation Careers Education Academy. And through that program, it was a 1 week summer program, and I had the opportunity to visit various aerospace companies and aerospace sites in the Los Angeles area. Places I started first day, start off with a tour of LAX, started a tour of the flight line of LAX, and you know, we the program took the students on a bus, and we drove around the runways and throughout our other flight line. We went to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, went to Gulfstream down in Long Beach, and so seeing all these companies and getting to know these engineers and seeing what they do and seeing the cool stuff that they design and build and test, that's where aerospace engineering, that's where I said, that's what I want to do,
Oh, that's of
was through that program. And I'd like to, if I can, I'd like to give a quick shout out to my mom
course.
because she, at the time I did the program, the program call time was 7:30 in the morning. I mentioned I'm from LA, but specifically West Covina, which is about 26 miles away from LA. So depending on who you tell, some people tell you, yeah, that's LA. Some people that's not. Anyways, so 26 miles away from LA, downtown LA. The airport is probably another 20. So, and again, call time was 7:30 in the morning. So my mom had to wake myself up and my brother up at 6 a.m., get breakfast going and then get ready to go because it was a long, long drive from West Covina to LAX. Not only did we fight the 10, the Baldwin Park traffic, we fought downtown LA traffic. When we hopped on the 105, there's always after the 710, people from LA know what I'm talking about, but after the 710, you hit that traffic and then you're smooth sailing. And then, of course, LAX traffic, which is absolutely unpredictable. Depending on the type of day and hour, LAX traffic is completely unpredictable. She had to do that to get me to the program and then to drive back home to do that. And then again, she had to do it one more time to pick me up. And so I don't know how my mom did it, but I like to give a huge shout out to her for really for helping me go to this program because and I always tell her like this program helped. Like it really helped. Like those hours sitting in traffic, just know that that I did not take that for granted, and I love her for doing that. So sorry. So just a
No,
quick shout out to my
shout out to
mom,
your mom. Yeah,
um,
what's your mom's name?
Maria.
Maria. Shout out to your mom, Maria. Awesome. Congratulations, mom, for
Absolutely.
doing that. And great effort on taking
So
Diego to that event, to that ACE Academy. So that's great, incredible. And I'm
yes.
glad that the Academy actually had a huge impact in your decision, in your life, and your perspective, and the insight that you gain, right? And now,
Mhm.
moving back over to the UCSD,
Yes.
you've been there for 5 days by yourself. You're the king of the castle, literally over at your dorm area, right? And all of a sudden, people start moving in. You start talking to them. You tell them, "Hey, I've been here. I got an early move-in date." But then you hit classes, right? So you're thinking
Hmm.
as a high school graduate, you're thinking, oh man, I can do this. At my high school, I was a 4.10, 4.25 GPA. This is going to be a walk in the park, quote unquote, right? And all of a sudden, you're there the first day of class. You go into this large hall. I'm assuming let's take one of those calculus classes, and you're there and there's 200 plus people in the class, and you look around and I don't know if you sat in the back, in the front, in the middle, but there's a sea of people. They're all about your age, between 17 and 20ish, and they're all prospective engineers, different majors, but they're taking this class. What was going through your mind after you had been there for the first week and you have taken those classes and you see a bunch of students walking around? What's going on?
Yeah. So I mentioned that my parents they went to college, and so I'm second generation. So before before I even honestly before I even applied to college, my parents they told me this. They told me that you're gonna like when you go to college, they told me that I would be in really large classrooms, not even they're not even classrooms, lecture halls. I'd be one of a sea of people, and they kind of already set the tone for me, even before I even applied. So I knew. So I guess I wasn't when I saw my math and physics classes. Those were definitely the classes where I had I was in the big lecture halls with 300 to 400, sometimes 500 students, and it didn't really surprise me at all. I just wanted to make sure I had a good seat where I can see the professor and look at their notes and copying down and absorb. But yeah, but but a week in, it was so. But after that week passed, and I then focused on trying to create like a schedule for myself, and that's really what was going through my brain. Like, okay, how am I going to organize everything? Because again, you know, my parents warned me about, class sizes and all that, and the expectations would be higher. But at the end of the day, I knew it was still up to me to organize myself and compose myself, and so that way I can stay organized and stay on top of everything. So really, after that first week, that's what was going through my mind. Just trying to create a schedule for myself, and trying to make sure not to become overwhelmed so early.
Okay, and then for those of you who are watching, listening, this is UCSD has a quarter system. So a quarter system is a little different than a semester system. Semester systems are predominantly used in high schools and also here in California, the state schools, for example, San Diego State, Cal State, Long Beach, they all have semesters. But UCSD, for the most part, with the exception of, I believe, Berkeley, Berkeley has a semester system, but most of the UC systems campuses actually have a quarter system. So a quarter system is a fast-paced 10-week session, right? You're coming from a 16-week, maybe 20-week semester from high school. All of a sudden, you're hard hit with this quarter system, and by week two, for the most part, you experience taking a midterm, right? What That's just about how the schedule goes. Maybe week two, maybe week three, but that's more or less how it happens. And all of a sudden, you realize that the class material is a little bit difficult. It's a little more difficult. So I want you to remember what the hardest class was that shook you up, that made you realize and made you, and I want you to get vulnerable here, doubt yourself whether you belong in this particular class, in this particular university, in this particular major, that shook you to your core, if you want to share that with us.
Yeah, I've taken a lot of classes that are hard, and that have made me feel that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the first class that where I felt that, and I felt that for the first time, and that was at UCSD. It's called MAE2. That's the class code for UCSD, and but the class is called Intro to Aerospace Engineering. It's a required class for all aerospace majors, required to take it your first year. And we had a midterm, and it was during week 6. So, but I noticed that around, week 4 and week 5, a lot of the students were getting very nervous because they were, because yeah, they were worried about failing that midterm. They were making it sound like that midterm was, it was defining their careers for the rest of their academic career at UCSD. I didn't go into it. I did not go into the exam thinking that. I studied as best I could, and I go in, I take the exam, and I walk out, and I am after that exam, and I'm just immediately doubting myself. I'm walking back. The exam was from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. So, I use every minute that I can. I walk out of that classroom, and I'm walking, head down, sulking on the way back to my dorm. And I think that I completely just bombed an exam. And I remember I called my parents, and I told them, like, yeah, like, I feel like I just failed badly, and I feel like I don't belong here because yeah, because I thought, what, I'm here to be an aerospace engineer, but if I can't even pass an intro class, what makes me think I can pass any of my other classes? So, so yeah, parents, they reassured me that, like, no, like, it's going to be fine. And in reality, it was fine. I did great on the exam, but but the reason I'm sharing, specifically ME2, is because it was the first time I ever felt that way. In high school, I had some low exam scores, but it didn't really shake me to my core as much as this MAE2 midterm. And so yeah, um, I hope that answers the
Yeah,
question.
it does. It does. So the next question piggybacks off of that one because all of a sudden you're shaken down to your core, right? So now you really know what you're made of. You call your parents and you said, okay, this is my support system. That's the individual. Those are the individuals that you rely on. You're like, okay, I confide in you. I'm feeling inadequate in this particular scenario, environment, whatever it is, right? What do I do? And they give you some advice. But ultimately, you as an individual are going through this growing phase, developing into a professional, right? But I want you to give and provide insight to those who are watching, listening, maybe for the first time. They're considering they probably have experienced this and don't know how to deal with that failure to some extent, right? Quote unquote failure. What keeps you going? What type of advice would you give those individuals in order for them not to give up?
So I always, and I'm still doing my best to do this for myself, but I always try to remember what motivated me to choose this path in the first place. Because I know that a lot of people, they didn't just say, oh, they didn't have like, they didn't put a list of all the majors up on the wall and then throw a dart and it just happened to land on aerospace engineering. Like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. There is a reason why. And I know this because all the Boeing engineers, I always try to ask them like, what was your passion? Why did you choose this path? And they all, various answers. They say, oh, I've always loved rockets. I love fighter jets. A plethora of answers. And so what I would tell to those who feel like they're giving up, who feel like they don't belong, just think back to that passion. Think back to, for me, think back to the first time you ever saw an airplane and reignite that passion, reignite that spark in your heart, and then just use that to motivate you. And then and when you call that back, you all of a sudden you feel this wave of confidence, like and you remember, like, I chose this for a reason. And additionally, for me, another big motivator for me is my parents. They I and my parents and my grandparents as well. They did not work hard for me and set me up just to fail. They gave me their wisdom, they set the path, and they guided me. And it was hard to realize that too, because me being in their household, they held my hand for 17 years. But then all of a sudden here I am in college, and all of a sudden I let go of their hand because I'm on their own. And it's hard, but I still always remember that. I always think back to my family and the values that they gave me. And every time I've had an accomplishment, I just remember of how proud they are of me. And I use that as motivation to keep going, to stay happy and keep going. So that's the advice that I would give to those who are feeling down, who are facing not just those new audience members who are in college, but also those who maybe they got rejected from multiple internships or even a job offer. Just just take a step back, figure out why you chose this path, reignite that passion, and then just use that as motivation and keep going forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Great insight. Great insight. Great advice for those listening. Right. Now you've been there at UCSD for 3 years, and through those 3 years, you've had good experiences, and then all of a sudden, great experiences or great memories. I want you to focus and maybe give me one or two of the fondest memories you've had since you've been attending at UCSD.
So the first memory would be the creation of my main aerospace friend group. And so I'll take it back. So this was week 5. So this was the week before the dreaded ME2 midterm. And I didn't really know how to study for it. And And so there was this class, Discord. And for those who don't know Discord, it's a social media site. A lot of college students use it to communicate and create study groups and, and collaborate and all that fun stuff. So on Discord, there was these three group of women that said, hey, we're going to be in the library. If anyone wants to come and study, you're welcome to come by. I wasn't in the Discord at the time, so I didn't see that message. I went up to one of those women. I said, hey, can I come study in the library with you? They said, yes, of course. So I joined them. So it was us four. And then slowly people started trickling in from members of the class, and they didn't really study with us. They kind of just were there. They were just kind of passing by, airing out, releasing their stress a little bit, saying like, yeah, like I'm really scared and I don't know if I'm going to pass, whatever. But and a lot of people came by, but there were two other men that yeah, they released their stress, but they also sat down and they stayed with us and they studied. So it was the six of us total in that study group. And then one of the other women, we created a group chat on Instagram, and from there, that's when our friend group was born. And that friend group, and the reason why this is such a core memory for me is because that friend group has been my support system throughout my entire college career. And we are still friends and we still hang out from time to time. We still study together, some classes, now that we've kind of branched off and gone on our own academic path, some classes we have are the same, others not. But at the end of the day, we all still support each other. And I realized, and looking back, I realized that if I didn't have that friend group, especially early on, freshman year, fall quarter, brand new kid on the block. If I didn't have that friend group, to keep motivating me and keep supporting me, don't know if I don't know if I would have continued with aerospace engineering. And I know I said before that, I wanted to make my parents proud, and my parents are, my motivation. But again, they're 200 miles away. There's something different about having a a close friend group, a very close support system, close to you, people that can help you and answer you, within 5 seconds. So so that's why that's a core memory. And I highly encourage, if there's any people that are entering college, for the first time, I highly encourage you to find that friend group, because it makes life, and it doesn't matter what major, it makes life a lot easier, and it makes your college experience a lot more fun.
Awesome. That's great. That's a great memory and also great advice. Obviously that turned into a study group and slash support group, and that's very important. And a lot of high school students that are transitioning from high school to college, they don't know how to create or study in groups, right? That's something that's still lacking. And I'm glad that you were able to anticipate that, be able to, create that and be able to utilize and leverage that for your support and benefit of being at UCSD. So that's kudos to you, my friend, and great insight. Now, speaking of support groups, do you belong to any particular student organization that you have at UCSD that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I belong to a few. SHIP, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, being the first one, and I've been in SHIP since freshman year, and I've been involved for a little bit. I always go. They host an event called Empower, it's a high school outreach event. That's my favorite event that they throw. It's always great, meeting, high school students, and mentoring them and giving them advice. And so yeah, and then this upcoming academic year, I have the honor and the privilege to be the academic chair, and so I have some fun events planned for this year, so that way our members can grow both academically and professionally. Um, I'm also part of AIAA. It's the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. So it's an aerospace engineering. You don't have to be an aerospace engineer to join, but it's an aerospace professional organization. I've gotten to go to a couple conferences and a couple events through that organization. and the members there are really nice and fun to be around. So those are engineering social organizations. I'm also involved. I also dove into some project teams as well, so I can grow my engineering expertise outside of the classroom. So freshman and sophomore year, I was in Triton Solar Car, and and I had fun there. Definitely got a lot of hands-on experience that I really enjoyed. And then started the junior year, I discovered that UCSD has an RC airplane organization, so I joined that as well, and that was a lot of fun. I got to uh, I got to be on the structures team and help build the airplane, create designs for the airplane and for our competition. Our competition was in Wichita, Kansas this past season, and I got the privilege to go and see everybody else's planes and connect. So it was a lot of fun. But those three organizations are where I spend my time outside of the classroom.
It's for the students or for the even the professionals. It's important for us to, yes, focus in our job, yes, do our job well, but at the end of the day, it's also the network that you create, right? Obviously, through those organizations, those groups that you mentioned, like SHIP and AIAA and the RCPL or the actual
Um,
RC group,
yeah.
you literally establish and create that relationship with other individuals that are following one, pursuing the same major, right? That are possibly going in the future to be your peers within the industry and that can help you and guide you if you ever need their support in some sort of way, form, or shape. You never know what you're going to end up needing and who you're going to be reaching out to. So those are very important. You mentioned SHIP, and obviously you and I belong to SHIP, and it's an organization, Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, that is at national level. And for those of you who are watching, if you don't know what that is, it's literally a network of individuals that studied engineering, and there's a lot of us in at any level within any corporation, SpaceX, you know, Blue Origin, JPL. There is engineers there, Northrop Grumman, General Atomics, Boeing. There will be some sort of member that belongs to SHIP. So that network really has a vast reach. And for that one, I'm going to see and I'm going to ask you, Diego, have you been the other organizations that you've been involved with? Have you leveraged the network with them?
Yeah. So AIAA, it's so like I mentioned, the conferences that really the conference that I've been to, that I've definitely gotten some contacts from them as well, because those members are also from AIAA. And but really what I found valuable about the organizations was talking with the upperclassmen and asking them for advice, especially being a first year, having all these questions and just these upperclassmen essentially, reassuring you that, everything's going to be okay. You're going to end up where you're going to end up. And, that's a beauty of being involved in a student organization that, that isn't advertised. And that's something that it just naturally happens. Eventually an upperclassman will help you out, will mentor you, may help you lead to open doors in your career. And so yeah, being able to talk to the upperclassmen and get reassurance and advice from them, that is how I have utilized that network.
Okay, awesome. That's great to hear. And you mentioned mentors, right? Mentors are those individuals that, like you said, have a little more experience than you do. And in this case, upperclassmen, they're a little closer to your age. They can definitely mentor you in guiding you to, hey, take this professor, take this class. You're going to have to watch out for this particular session, or this course is going to be a little bit more difficult than what you expected, or this particular uh, class, you need to be able to focus on this, and this is more or less what the exam tends to bring. Not that they give you the answers, responses, but they give you a little more guidance, right? And then you could also take mentors as individuals from the industry, possibly at Boeing. You probably have a maybe one or two individuals that can give you advice. Maybe they're not official mentors, but at least you get some sort of guidance and some sort of way to find your path. And that's what mentorship is, right? And the more you speak to individuals, the more you communicate with those individuals, and the more you share your goals, your dreams of what you want to achieve, there will be individuals that will definitely want to help and support you, and they give you some pointers, some tips, some guidance. It's up to you ultimately, and not just Diego, but it's up to you to either take that advice, run with it, shape it, modify it, and make it your own, and just follow your path in that regard. So hopefully that makes sense. You are finishing, or in the cusp of finishing, your second internship with Boeing, which is your dream company, right? What does this mean to you at this point that you're finishing the second internship with them, and particularly with Boeing, since it's your dream company? What does this opportunity really mean to you?
It means a lot, and I always think about like how far I've come and how I was able to land this opportunity. So it truly means a lot when I'm able to say, I I started my career at Boeing at such an early part of my engineering career. Uh, and I say that because, if I'm being honest, I didn't think I'd be working for Boeing until much later on in my career. I thought I would have to get more experience and get more engineering experience under my belt to then be able to, apply for the positions that Boeing, offers. But the fact that the fact that I can look back and think like, no, like you started much earlier than that. It's amazing, and it means the world to me that I'm able to say that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So, you you say it's your dream company, so there's probably some expectations that you had before you actually got into Boeing. Obviously, there's a little bit of reality check when you actually are in the company. So, I want you to talk about, quote unquote, the expectations versus the reality of the position that you have at this point.
So let me tell you, the expectations have no, I'm sorry, the reality has completely exceeded expectations it, beyond anything I could ever imagine. I'll talk a little bit about what a liaison engineer does. That's my position. So liaison engineer, we liaise between the production floor and between the specialists, the specialist engineers that are there. By specialists, I mean, the EMEs, which are the electromagnetic engineers. You have the stress engineers, the flammability engineers. So liaison engineering, we're essentially the middlemen. What when there's a problem with the airplane on the production floor, uh, as liaison engineers, we receive those problems, and then we look at them, and we find the best solution for that fix in a timely manner. There are times where we might need to go to those engineers, those stress engineers, those flammability engineers, to essentially get some help and more insight onto how to fix the issue on this airplane. Anyway, so that's that. I could go into more detail, but the reason why reality has exceeded expectations is because at Boeing, I have gotten the full LE experience. I have gotten the opportunity to work on work on tags, work on work orders, to go on the airplane. And when I say go on the airplane, I mean any part of the airplane that my training allows. I've gotten, inside the fuselage, inside the cargo hold. And it's amazing. And also, additionally, I've had the opportunity to really get to know the airplane and work on different sites within Boeing, South Carolina, and really understand how this airplane comes together when it starts in aft, when we start making the back sections of the airplane. Section 48 and 47 is what we call them. and then we go to mid body, and that's the main part of the fuselage, and then final assembly where everything is joined. I've had the opportunity to go to see all parts of production in Charleston, and that's ultimately why reality has just it's been amazing, and this internship has been absolutely amazing.
Awesome. That's great. Great to hear. I'm glad that the reality has surpassed and exceeded the expectations that you actually had in before you went in there. A little bit of advice that you wish you had before you actually entered this internship. Anything that you can share with us?
Yeah, I wish that I was told some advice. I wish I was told was to be more patient, was to be patient and just, and sit back and absorb as much information. Jumping in, liaison engineering, it was my first choice when I wanted to come back to Boeing for another internship. And so I was eager to just get started, get on the airplane, sink my teeth into any work order possible. But I wish that someone had told me to just slow down and just, first, understand, the deeper meaning of what it means to be an LE, and really try to get into the thought process of, how an LE thinks. And and I will say that I have started doing that. I wish I had known that earlier, weeks before, but I'm starting to do that now, and it has helped me a lot in terms of, thinking clearly, paying attention to detail, and making sure that when I work with tags with my mentor, that what I'm saying and what I'm asking the production floor to do is correct.
Awesome. That's great advice. Great advice. Well, thank you. Now we jump into what I like to call rapid fire questions, right? Okay, so what this means is I'll ask you a question and you give me maybe a sentence or two response fairly fast. And this is what you believe at this point and what comes to the top of your mind. So, first of all, obviously good leaders always create good leaders. Do you, Diego, have any individuals you look up to? Who are your mentors?
So yeah, so I looked up to members of my family, my grandparents on both sides, my mom and my dad's side, and my mom and my dad. They have my parents have been my mentors. They have my biggest mentors and my biggest supporters. They've given me so much advice. And when I think of the word mentor, I think of someone that takes you under your wing. And throughout my university career, I've asked for help, and I've gotten help, but in my university career, I've never really had a mentor per se, the way I define, mentor. And so in reality, whenever I need help, or, whenever I need to fall back on someone, it's always been my parents. And then for my grandparents, I always go to them for wisdom. They've been around for a very long time, and whenever I need, not just support, but also, deeper advice, changing my way of thinking about certain situations, I go to them on how to approach anything. So it's my mentors and are my parents, and my leaders, and those who have been there for me, the grandparents.
Awesome. Good response. Thank you. The other question that I have is what's the one question that you wish people would ask, but they never tend to do?
So the one question that I wish people would ask me is, are you happy and satisfied with your life right now? And the reason why is because, there point in times, where, everything's great. Like right now, I'm enjoying my job and enjoying my internship and learning a lot. But then there's other times, where I'm, I'm not doing well. I'm either stressed out because of school, or, I'm just worried about something's just on my mind. And so that's a question that I wish people would ask more, and specifically to me, because for the times that I am not doing well, I can recognize that for myself, and then I can step back and take a break and change the way I'm thinking, so that way I can again, all goes back to motivating myself to finish that assignment, or CAD that design, do whatever to really to make sure that I'm doing what I can and doing what I do. So that's the question that I wish that people would ask me.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, as we're in the era of superheroes. So that being said, what do you believe your superpower to be, and how do you utilize that?
Um, I would say my superpower is my ability to I'd say my superpower is my ability to listen and just and that expands beyond engineering. When people come up to me and they're going through something and I just sit there and I listen and yeah, so I feel like that would be my superpower. I feel like I'm a good listener and just being there. Um, that would be my superpower.
Awesome. Being a good listener and being there for individuals when they need it. Okay, good. This other question is any particular book, movie, or podcast that you believe has made an impact in your life and you wish more people would definitely take advantage of listening, watching, or reading?
Man, it's a great question. Um, I would say I would say probably there's this book, probably The Seven Habits,
Good.
Highly Effective People. I know
By
it's an old
Stephen
book,
Covey,
but
right?
the
Stephen Covey, right?
yes, but that book definitely, even though it's an old book, but the ideals that and I'm sorry, not the advice, but the lessons. There we go. The lessons that are taught in that book are applied to this day as adults, and that book has shaped me as an adult and who I am today.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a good book. Awesome, awesome, great insight. There's two questions. There's two questions left. The next one is, what is your definition of success? Everybody has a definition. There's people that go with money, people that go with fame. But for you, Diego Martinez, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is when you look back on your career. I'll talk about why I'm in the aviation um, business and why I'm in the aviation career first, and I'll explain it briefly. So I'm in the aviation business and career to help people get from point A to point B, because that's what airplanes do. And so for me, success is when I have the ability to look up in the sky and I see an airplane flying, and I look up and I think like I worked on this part of the airplane, or I invented this, I fixed this. And the reason why that airplane is flying is because of me and what I did. And because of that, the people or the cargo are getting from point A to point B safely. And having the ability to say that is what success is for me. And I got that definition of success from my first internship with Boeing, being product development, and meeting all the different engineers that have multiple patents to their name and have the ability to say that. And and my definition of success, doesn't just apply to the aerospace business. It applies to any business. So yeah, that's my definition.
Thank you. Awesome. Great response. This last question is a very special question. Um, you know, we talked about you, your mom, the drive from your home, maybe being about an hour, hour and a half down to the LAX, the airport down in Los Angeles. For this one, I want you to imagine that your mom drives back, after a very long day. You get back home, and she dropped you off. You did your thing at maybe the airport or another facility, and she picked you back up, right? And you arrive home, so obviously she's a little tired. But at the end of the day, you walk back into your room, and all of a sudden, you, Diego Martinez from today, you are able to close your eyes. You're able to, transport and travel back in time to meet yourself, this little Diego Martinez. Maybe you're 15 at that time, and you walk into the room, and you probably have a minute or two with yourself, with your younger self. I want you to go ahead and imagine what three pieces of advice would you share with your younger self that you have now that you probably say, oh man, he needs to know this now? What would that be?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love that question. And I think right off the bat, first thing I would say is take advantage of this opportunity and the many opportunities that come to you. You know, if there's an opportunity, if there's a chance for you to excel in your career, take it. You know, take it. And um, the second piece of advice I would give is that you don't have to decide right now in this moment what you have to do. And what I mean by that is that, I have a general pathway of where I want to go in terms of my passions and in terms in my aerospace career. But in reality, I'm 20 years old. I'm really, just starting my aerospace career, and I don't have to be, and I would tell this to my younger self, you don't have to be fixed on one pathway. You can explore so many different pathways, and I would tell my, and I would also tell my younger self, like, and as you learn through this program, like, there's so many moving parts to an airplane, and aerospace engineers and engineers in general are needed everywhere. So, don't, so second piece of advice would be don't limit yourself to one path. Explore and explore every path possible. And then third piece of advice would be to just always be curious and always be willing to learn, you know. And I would tell my younger self to, do more research on airplanes and look at YouTube videos and all that, and be really immersed with the subject, because it's that curiosity that really drives people towards success. They're really curious about something and they want to learn more. And when you're in that state, you're more passionate about your work. So so I would tell my younger self to really to expand on the opportunity given to you at ACE, and really just be staying curious and keep learning more, and that will set you up for life.
It's a great response. Thank you, Diego. With that, I want to acknowledge you for your achievements for the third year that you're completed at UCSD. You're about to enter your fourth and possibly final year at UCSD. I want to acknowledge you for your internships at Boeing. Acknowledge you for both of those internships that you've completed or you're about to complete your second one with Boeing. And I want to acknowledge you for having such great mentors and your parents, your mom, your dad, and your grandparents for being your solid rock for whenever you need something. They're a phone call away, literally, even though you're on the East Coast right now for this second internship. But when you're over here at UCSD, you feel comfortable enough to call them. So I acknowledge you for reaching out and being in touch with them, right? I also acknowledge you for being such a servant leader by being the academic chair at SHIP UCSD. It is such an important role to have role models, and you are a role model by being that individual that promotes academics to your peers. Stepping up and taking that leadership role is part of your path, is part of your growth. So, with that, I want to thank you for your time here and for responding to all the questions. I enjoy the conversation immensely. Thank you so much for doing this. And to our audience, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. You can definitely connect with Diego Martinez through his LinkedIn if you so choose to do, or also myself, Lázaro Herrera. And we will definitely see you in the next episode. Hasta luego. Bye bye.